Americans have voting power, but if we don't use it, we lose it. And going out to vote is not voting power if you don't get anything for your vote. And so we're going to look at lessons learned, some of our voting patterns and habits from 1870 to this year, 2024. Welcome to the Black Violence News Channel, where we explore the pivotal issues and rich history that have shaped the Black American experience. I am the Black Violence. In today's episode, we delve into the political evolution from the red plantation to the democratic blue plantation, examining the complex history of American voters, Black American voters, and the broader context of generational wealth disparity that began in the 19th century. This is important. Generational wealth disparity that began in the 19th century. Our exploration begins even before the Civil War in 1862, when the United States government passed the Homestead Act. The legislation offered vast tracts of land to white settlers, primarily benefiting white European immigrants moving westward. While this land allocation fueled the development of the West and significantly contributed to the generational wealth of millions of white American families, Black Americans were still in the bonds of slavery, excluded from this wealth building opportunity. The failure to include Black Americans in this pivotal moment laid the groundwork for economic disparities that persist today. The promise of 40 acres and yes, a mule in 1865 was a beacon of hope for newly freed slaves, a chance to build their livelihoods and establish a foundation for future generations. However, the promise was never fulfilled because the Ku Klux Klan, a terrorist organization started in 1866, started terrorizing Black Americans, the freedmen, because they didn't want them to have any rights as citizens. They didn't want them to vote. They didn't want them to have property. While white Europeans were getting land, immigrants, they were preventing Blacks from getting anything, anything, no land, no help, nothing. The Homestead Act of 1862 not only facilitated the immediate land acquisition for millions of white European immigrants, but also laid the groundwork for generational wealth that many of their descendants enjoy today. By providing access to land at no cost, only a small filing fee, the act allowed these immigrants to build farms, establish businesses, and create thriving communities. As a result, many families accumulated significant wealth over generations, leading to increased economic stability and upward mobility for their descendants. This generational wealth has had lasting effects, especially in the Western United States. Properties acquired through the Homestead Act often became the foundation for larger agricultural enterprises, and the land's value increased as the region developed. Many of these families were able to pass down not only the land itself, but also the associated benefits, such as increased property values and the ability to leverage real estate loans and investments. This cycle of wealth accumulation has contributed to disparities in the economic status opportunity within American society. In stark contrast, African Americans face systematic barriers that prevented them from accumulating similar wealth. The 3,500 Black Americans who did manage to acquire land under the Homestead Act were often limited to their ability to expand their holdings or improve their economic circumstances due to discrimination and lack of access to resources and violence. Many were unable to pass down land to future generations, further perpetuating cycles of poverty and limiting opportunities for wealth creation. The inability for Black Americans to build generational wealth has had profound implications for their communities, for our communities. While white families benefited from the stability and financial security that came with land and ownership, Black American families were often left out without, and we didn't have those same opportunities, resulting in significant economic disparities that persist today. Overall, the Homestead Act served as a critical example of how government policies can shape economic opportunities for specific groups, for white people, and contribute to systematic inequalities. The wealth generated by white European immigrants through the act has had lasting effects on their descendants, while African Americans, Black Americans, ancestors of slaves, were largely excluded from these benefits. And they continue to face challenges in achieving similar economic stability and upward mobility. Understanding these historical contexts highlights the importance of addressing these inequalities and working towards a more inclusive economic future. Now, the 1862 Homestead Act granted 260 million acres of public land to European immigrants. And the freedmen only got a promise that was never fulfilled. Yes, let's talk about the two Johnsons, Andrew Johnson and Lyndon B. Johnson. The two Johnsons were vice presidents. They were vice presidents, and when the presidents that they were serving under got assassinated, they ascended to president. Let's talk about Andrew Johnson first. Now, Andrew Drew Johnson was the vice president under Abraham Lincoln. Now, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Andrew Johnson was a Democrat. And hasn't happened too many times in US history where the president is one party and his vice president is another. But in this case right here, they wanted to have a unity ticket. And so Abraham Lincoln chose or they chose Vice President Andrew Johnson as his vice president. So when Abraham Lincoln got assassinated, Andrew Johnson became president. Now, the Democratic Party back then wanted perpetual slavery. And of course, the Republican Party fought for the abolition of slavery. And so when this vice president, Democratic president, a became president, this racist basically turned back all the promises and all the progress that was made in providing Black Americans with some rights. Let's get into this. And so after Republican President Lincoln's assassination, the Democratic racist president, Andrew Johnson's administration, rescinded the order returning the land to the Confederate owners. And so this left the freemen without any resources that were promised to them. But Johnson felt that ending slavery went far enough. In other words, he's going to end slavery, but that's it. Extending the rights and protections of the citizenship of free Black people, he believed went much too far. He believed that Blacks were inferior to whites. And so this is what happened. He moved the federal Union troops out of the South. And in 1866, the Ku Klux Klan called themselves a self-defense force, but they terrorized the freemen and kept them from obtaining wealth and constitutional rights. White people and other citizens enjoyed. In other words, what I was saying there, that he didn't want Black Americans to have the rights that white people had and the other citizens enjoyed. So they had to pass a Ku Klux Klan Act. And that act, that I discussed, was supposed to protect Black Americans' freedoms and rights, but it did not. And the terror continued. Let's fast forward to the Reconstruction era, when Black Americans, newly enfranchised by the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, aligned with Republican Party. This is why they went on the Republican Party plantation, because of these amendments. Now, this period was followed by significant political realignment when the New Deal came in the 1930s. There was a shift in Black Americans towards the Democratic Party due to economic relief efforts led by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Now, we're going to go to the Civil Rights Movement of the 1960s, brought further shifts to the Democratic Party, notably through the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 under Lyndon B. Johnson, reinforcing Black loyalty to the Democratic Party. Now let's talk about Lyndon B. Johnson for a minute. Again, I had mentioned that he was vice president, and the president that he was serving under got assassinated. That was President John F. Kennedy. And so after this period here, Black loyalty went to the Democratic Party. Despite these historical alignments, many Black Americans today, though, they're expressing frustration and feel neglected, especially as they watch resources directed towards other communities, including these recent immigrants. Biden tells Black Americans, if you don't vote for him in 2020, remember that during that 2020 campaign, presidential campaign, he stated that you're not Black if you don't vote for him. Now, wait a minute. See, this is the arrogance of these Democrats. I cannot imagine Joe Biden telling white people or Asian people or any other type of people that if you don't vote for him, you ain't white. Or if you don't vote for him, you're not Asian. Or if you don't vote for him, you're not Latino. And this is the arrogance that these Democrats have. This is the respect that they have for Black Americans. And this is how they take your vote for granted. They know you're going to vote Democrat because you're afraid of the red plantation. Now, why Black voters are stuck on the Democratic plantation? And we're gonna get into this and we're gonna explain it. But also Obama also stated that if African Americans do not vote, it will be a personal insult to him. Now, Obama, he springboarded his political career off the voting power of Black Chicagoans. After he got elected, after he got elected, after he got elected as president, he forgot about the Black Chicagoans. He got Michelle and the kids and no more Chicago. As the president, he stopped even going to Chicago and started going to Hawaii for his vacations. President Barack Obama had the audacity, after 8 years of doing nothing for Black Americans, he said he will take it as a personal insult if the African community failed to turn out for the presidential election of Hillary Clinton. And he encouraged Black voters to support the candidate, Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton didn't offer Black Americans anything. Obama delivered his final keynote address to the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, symbolically passing the torch to the person he hopes will succeed him next year. Now, this was in 2016. Clinton, his former Secretary of State, was honored for becoming the first female nominee as a major party. Now we got Kamala Harris, the first Black female or the first Asian female. Just vote for her and don't ask for nothing. Obama said his name may not be on the ballot, but issues of importance to the Black community were, including this justice, good schools, and ending mass incarceration. Nothing about an economic plan. They always want to talk mass incarceration. He did more for LGBTQ. We know what he did. He said he will consider it a personal insult, an insult to his legacy. If this black community lets down his guard and fails to activate itself in this election. Obama said with a stern look and a booming passion and waving his finger up in the air, "You want to give me a good send off? Go vote." Well, black American men, especially black American men, insulted the hell out of him. We did not vote for Hillary Clinton. Obama's influence in the black American community was high. Hell, we voted for him 97% in 2008 and 95% in 2012. Today, he couldn't get 30% of the black male vote. Only the Democratic plantation male Negroes still hold Barack Hussein Obama in high regards. Young black Americans vote Democratic because their mothers, their fathers, and grandparents voted Democratic ever since the 1965 and 1964 civil rights and voting rights bill came out. And they didn't ask for anything Pacific since then for themselves. And this today is a new day, though. I'm not going to vote for Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, just because she is a Democrat or because she is a black woman. It's not going to work in 2024. Shaming black American men is not going to work. Threatening them is not going to work. Scaring them that the Red Party plantation is going to get in, it's not going to work in 2024. The black plantation overseers say it's better for black Americans on the blue plantation. The black plantation overseers say it's better for black Americans on the red plantation. But what they don't tell you is that both of these plantations serve the same masters. They having you look at red, Indian, blue, Democrat, or Republican, but they serve the same masters. They serve the industrial military complex. They serve the large defense contractors, the Boeings and the Raytheons, etc. They both promote and they both serve the AIPAC, and that is the American Israel Political Action Committee. They serve their masters. They serve Wall Street's, their masters. They serve the big oil companies. The last and the least people who they serve is the American people, and Black Americans are on the bottom of that. So I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate you tuning in and staying here with me. I appreciate your time. But first of all, it was white supremacist people who created the plantation system that depended on America's unique race-based, constitutionally approved system of generational slavery. Today they call it human trafficking and forced labor. It was Black Americans who finally fought this country, the United States of America, into becoming a quasi, almost, but not quite democracy. Using the term plantation, this connotation invokes the history of chattel slavery and reframes our participation in the democratic process through the lens of the worst thing that ever happened to a group of peoples in human history. Every major ethnic, racial, and religious demographic in America votes Democrat except for white people. Let me say that again. Every major ethnic, racial, and religious demographic in America votes Democrat except white people. While Black voters are often characterized as Democrats, and they are because we are their most loyal voting bloc. And we vote up to 97% of our voters that are registered. Now, the vast majority of Asian Americans, they only vote 72%. Hispanics, they only vote 63%. Muslims, they vote 62%. And Jewish voters vote 68%. And they lean Democratic. So these other groups vote in the majority as well, except for white America. So let me ask you this question. What if the red Republican Party's platform is built on foundation of anti-Blackness? This is a reason why a majority of white voters have cast their ballots for the GOP for the last 50 years. This is the reason why GOP weaponizes white nationalism and criminalizes Black history. Republican politicians talk about critical race theory or wokeness. They want to teach our children Christopher Columbus discovered America, but don't say a word about how they committed genocide on millions of Native Americans. And after they wiped out the majority of Native Americans, the country founders started importing Black slaves to build the foundation of America. It's no coincidence that all the neo-Nazis, pro-Confederates, Karens, Proud Boys, vote suppressors jumping on the red plantation. They jump on the red plantation. And the plantation where the freedmen initiated after emancipation. So what I'm stating is that we should not be jumping back on the red plantation. You know, after all of this jumping back on the red plantation, is the plantation where the freedmen initially ran to after the emancipation. So without receiving any specific tangibles for Black Americans, you're just losing your voting power. You're not getting anything concrete. As we approach the 2024 elections, the Black American vote is more crucial than ever in this tightly contested race. Both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are actively seeking to secure the Black American vote. Our support is critical. However, neither Trump or Harris have articulated a clear Black agenda that specifically addresses the economic issues facing Black Americans today. Lesson learned. Black Americans have voting power. Black Americans, the only non-immigrant demographic group who did not arrive in America as immigrants. Our ancestors arrived in chains on slave ships. Black Americans should be on and stay on the free men and the free woman plantation, not on the red Republican Party plantation or the blue Democratic Party plantation. Plantation hopping from the red plantation to the blue plantation has not made or given us the progress we need. Now in 2024, Black Americans are disappointed with the Democrats spending trillions of dollars in financial aid to Ukrainians and Venezuelan immigrants. Now, this has frustrated Black Americans so much now. Now, we are ready to jump back in numbers to the plantation where we started from in 1870, the Red Plantation. We must stop. We must really start making chess moves with our vote and stop the madness. Vote for Black American interests only. Lessons learned. Every time they include the word minority, it excludes or reduces Black American descendants of freedmen, the backbone of America. Black Americans don't really benefit when they include minorities. Who really benefits? Who really benefits? Mostly white women. You know, white women are considered minorities. The majority people in the United States is white women, but they are minority when it comes to benefits, set-asides, as they would say, for small businesses or any other programs. Women benefit number one. Asians, Arabs, Latinos, they all benefit. We know that. History has demonstrated that. This is a fact. And now here we have another new class of Venezuelan immigrants coming in, getting billions of dollars, trillions of dollars in benefits. Black Americans must use their voting power to only elect politicians who has an agenda specifically for Black Americans, descendants of the freedmen. that will provide concrete economic benefits to Black Americans until there are concrete proposals that genuinely prioritize and address these needs. Many, include myself, will choose to withhold our votes from both the Democratic and Republican parties. It's a call for political leaders to present substantive, targeted solutions that truly resonate and uplift Black communities. Politics is who gets what, when, where, and how. Black American descendants of slaves must use their voting power to get what? An economic package. When? ASAP. No more studies. They talking about studies. Hey, that's just really go round in circles. Now, where do we need to get it? Right here in the United States, where the crime of slavery and institutional racism was and continues. And how we need these in cash reparations, specifically for Black Americans who are descendants of slaves. Black Americans must use their voting power to get an anti-hate crime bill passed for Black Americans who are at the highest risk. The United States, a Christian country, wants the Most High to bless America. Why should the Most High God bless America when America has not repented for her sins against Black Americans or repaired the atrocities of generational slavery sanctioned by the Constitution of the United States government? The United States has a moral and legal obligation to repair the damages to free men, descendants for slavery, systematic racism, and loss of generational wealth. I, the Black Vivalist, remain committed to highlighting these essential narratives, advocating for transparency, and urging political accountability. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for more conversations that impact our community. The Black Vivalist News Channel is a new channel. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and sharing our videos. Please continue to share this video with your friends. I ask you hit the notifications and check all of the bells, and so this channel will grow. I want really to see your comments. See your comments on this, and don't forget, please share this video. Thank you, and I appreciate your time. Have a great day.